Shalom, and thank you for watching this video from Aydat HaDerekh Synagogue. I hope you are liking the content we are bringing you. If you could like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, that will greatly help us. And to further help bring great content to you from our teachers, if you could please consider to donate to Aydat HaDerekh Synagogue. The link is in the description box below. Thank you for watching.
Yeah. So today we're going to read parts of Kisisa, or this week we've been reading parts of Kisisa, which is Shemos 33:12 through 34:16, and then because it's Hag Matzah, we also read parts of the Midbar as well. So I'd like to introduce you to a word. It might be a new word to some of you guys, but the word is zocha. Have you heard that word before? Okay, that means merit, all right? And to use it in context, for instance, a married man is zocha for his wife's love when he adores her with unselfish kindness. So try to remember that word. I'm going to use that word a couple times today. So in Shemos, we read how Moshe asks an audacious request. He says, "Show me, please, your glory." And that comes from Shemos 33:18. So let me see your kavod. What does that mean? So Chazal suggests he is saying, let me understand how the world works. Let me understand how divine justice works. Modern commentaries would suggest that he's saying, let me understand your essence. Now, I tend to reject inquiries like this because of our inherited Western mindset, which is derived from Greek thought processes that tend towards essence, form, and the inactive verb form to be. You know, we've all seen the Stoic philosopher, and he's like this. And he's made out of stone, which is perfect. You know, that's kind of the Greek mindset. Not always, but generalized. So by asking the question, what is God? That's the wrong question. That's the Greek question. The question that we should be asking is, how does God? So God responds to Moshe's request, and he says, you cannot see my panai, my face, for man cannot see me and live. That comes from Shemos 33:20. And then he further says, when my kavod passes by, I will cover you with my hand. By the way, kavod is glory, all right? So when my glory passes by, I will cover you with my hand, and I will take away my hand, and you shall see my back, but my face shall not be seen. So God tells Moshe, I will show you my back, but not my front. So then what's the problem? Well, the problem is God doesn't have a back. He doesn't have a face, or a front, or even a hand. And of course, we can say the text is not being literal, or is being metaphoric, or is being anthropomorphic. God, I actually said that. Usually I stumble over that word. And that some would say that the text is used in literary terms to explain a spiritual reality. If we concentrate on either of these explanations, we may miss a finer theological point. Here, God denies Moshe's request for a face-to-face, yet earlier in the same parsha, the text says, and HaShem spoke to Moshe, panim el panim, face-to-face, as a man speaks to his friend. And this is just 10 verses earlier. Elsewhere, at the end of Torah, in Parsha Vezot HaBracha, it says, and there has not risen a Navi in Israel like Moshe, whom Hashem knew panim el panim. Deuteronomy 34:10. In general, Moshe has spoken to God panim el panim, mouth to mouth, like a friend to a friend. Yes, and I agree, it's not literal. God's face and back are not literal, but that's not the problem. The problem is that we have one pasuk that says Hashem knew him face to face, and we have another pasuk that says, my face shall not be seen. The other problem is that Hashem says, let me see your glory, but Hashem answers and says, you shall not see my face. Literarily, not literally, but literarily, something is askew, or the text is trying to do something. From the time of the burning bush, Moshe was zoche to speak to God mouth to mouth. This is perfectly delineated in Bamidbar, Perek 12. This is a scene where Miriam and Aharon speak of Moshe because of his Cush's wife, which is Zipporah, or not, depending on what rabbi you listen to. And the text says this: when there is a Nevi among you, I, HaShem, reveal myself to him in a vision. I speak to him in a dream. But this is not true of my Eved Moshe. In all of my house, he is faithful. With him I speak pe el pe, clearly, mouth to mouth, and not in dark sayings. He sees the form of HaShem. So there we have the answer. Did you catch it? So let me read some passages, and I think it's going to clear up. So now remember the context, face to face versus you can't see my face, okay? Yavamas 49b from the Art Scroll. It says, do not the contradictions between scriptural references, however, still remain? I saw HaShem is to be understood in accordance with what was taught. All the prophets looked into a speculum that is dull, eyeglass. But Moshe looked through a clear glass. As to seek HaShem when he may be found, etc., one pasuk applies to an individual, the other to a congregation. When is the time for an individual? Rav Nachman replied in the name of Rabbah ben Abahu, the 10 days between New Year's and the Day of Atonement. Here's one from Vayikra Rabbah, the Midrash. What is the difference between the way Moshe perceived his prophecy and the way all other prophets perceived theirs? Rav Yehuda bar Eli and other sages discussed this issue. Rav Yehuda said, other prophets viewed their prophecies through 9 screens. Thus it is written, it was a vision like the vision I had seen before, like the vision I had seen when I came to prophetically destroy the city. And visions like the vision I had seen at the river Chabar. And I fell upon my face. Yehezkel 43:3. But Moshe viewed his prophecy through one screen, as it is stated in a clear vision and not in riddles, Numbers 12:8. Now let me tell you that one screen, that is implying the distance between Moshe and the Keruvim, which are on top of the Ark of the Covenant. The Midrash cites the view of the other sages. The other sages said, all the other prophets viewed their prophecy through a smudged screen. Thus it is written, I spoke with the prophets and provided numerous visions, and through the prophets I conveyed allegories. But Moshe viewed his prophecy through a polished screen. Thus it is written, at the image of HaShem does he gaze. And then there's one other passage. For now we see through a speculum darkly, but then face to face. 1 Corinthians 13:12. I'm sure you guys probably have a different translation for that. So let me repeat. From the time of the burning bush, Moshe was zoche to speak to God face to face. Moshe spoke clearly, HaShem spoke clearly, mouth to mouth. HaShem revealed the Torah succinctly, and Moshe dictated. They communicated as do friends. So what happened? Sin. The Egel HaZahav, the golden calf. That was our sin. Moshe could speak to God face to face when he represented us at a higher level of Kedusha. But our sin took this away from him. Moshe did nothing. When we sinned, we no longer were zocha to have a close relationship with HaShem, and no one felt this more than Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe, our intercessor, our mediator, experienced the distancing we caused. Now remember in Devarim, I said Moshe could not enter the land because we did not deserve his leadership. This is why. These concepts are intrinsically tied like the strings of your tzitzit or the knots on the back of the Kohen Gadol's zis. You know, the one that says holy to HaShem. Or from our tefillin shel rosh. This is where the concept of HaShem wearing tefillin arises. Now, I had half a mind to dip into some involuted teachings from Shimon Bar Yochai and some other related texts that create a very good analogy, but I think I'm just going to, finish up my notes right now. It's just kind of rough notes, and I'll put it in the blog. I really don't like talking Kabbalah in the congregational setting. Plus, I don't want to eat too much of your time because we might be reading Shir Hashirim today. But to create closeness and to rebuild the relationship, Moshe placed himself in mortal risk for us. His unselfish kindness caught Hashem's ear, and we were forgiven. Remember, he said, if you're going to blot anybody out, blot my name out. However, it wasn't until the end of Moshe's life that he was able to face with Hashem again. He was a Nevi for Kalal Israel. Moshe's relationship with Hashem was dependent upon the kind of nagash, or the closeness that we deserved with Hashem. At the end of his life, this relationship did return. The text says that there was never a Nevi like Moshe Rabbeinu whom Hashem knew panim el panim. For those who know, this explains the divine kiss that we see in Devarim 34:5 and in Bava Basra 17a, where the Torah says, and death came to Moshe, the servant of Hashem, in the land of Moab by the mouth of Hashem. This is what is called the death by divine kiss. So I hope this was clear. If it was, please use what you have learned and reevaluate your understanding of these few Pesukim. Hashem make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. This is part 2 of the Birchas HaKohanim. Hashem lift up his face to you and give you shalom. That's part 3. What's interesting is that the threefold blessing addresses both life and death. Hashem spoke with you face to face in the mount out of the midst of the fire. So what kind of Zolka did we have then compared to now? Then my anger shall be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, etc. And I will surely hide my face in that day for all the evil which they have wrought, in that they have turned toward other gods. So, at that time, how clear will God's revelation be at that time? Not very clear. And he said, I will hide my face from them, and I will see what their end shall be. For they are a very froward generation, children in whom there is no faithfulness. Good Shabbos.